Hello everybody and welcome back to another beer review. Today we're going to be drinking Seef beer from the Antwerp Brewing Company. It is a beer that is special to the city of Antwerp, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that, but I also wanted to do something a little bit more special for episode 21. I hope that the parallel is kind of clear here. 21 is a big number in terms of drinking alcohol, especially in the United States. You got to be 21 in order to drink alcohol, and the 21st Amendment was the amendment that essentially canceled out prohibition and allowed people to continue to drink. So 21 is kind of an important number in the United States, at least with regards to drinking brewskis. And so I thought, let's talk about the kind of like the drinking age in the United States and why it is too high and why it should be lowered. I'm not talking about 18, I'm talking about like lowered to like 16. So we're gonna be talking about that today on Beer Lay. All right, there we go. Let's take a look at this thing. It is cloudy, it's hazy, it's got some yeast, it's got some trub in that thing. Quite a foamy beer just from this distance right here. I can already smell like a lot of bananas and spices. It's got a really nice traditional Belgian yeast type of smell. By the way, really cool bottle cap. Put that up there. Let's try it out real quick. Okay, wow. It's not very sweet. It's got some like spiciness to it, but like not hot and spicy, like spicy. It's really smooth. It's not overly powerful in the flavors or anything like that. Also, this thing has won a bunch of awards apparently. All right, and that's actually going to be the extent of that beer review. So let's get talking about drinking laws in the United States. I've actually got some notes here, so there actually might be some coherent thoughts. I actually did some research on this thing, and I hope you guys can actually learn something from this review. So let's talk about the history of alcohol laws in the United States. And so we're actually going to start our story in 1919 when the 18th Amendment was passed. It prohibited the production, sale, distribution, consumption. Years later, 1933, I guess people were a little bit down on their luck and they said, you know what, I would like to have a drink. And so then they passed the 21st Amendment, which then repealed the 18th Amendment, and that left it up to the states to decide what the minimum drinking age would be. So I actually don't have a lot of information leading up to 1919 and what the minimum drinking age laws were in each state. However, during Prohibition, obviously, there was no minimum drinking law because drinking wasn't allowed. And after 1933, each state was allowed to decide for themselves. But most states had a drinking age around 21. A couple had lower, maybe 20, 19, or 18. There was also some exceptions where like maybe 18 would be for beer and then 21 for hard alcohol. But for the most part, more than half the states in the US had a drinking age of 21. So after 1933, states continued to progressively and slowly drop the minimum drinking ages in their states, leading up into the 1970s where the 26th Amendment was passed, which gave adults over the age of 18 the right to vote. And there was this essentially revolution of what I'm gonna call adultism in the United States, where once you're 18, you're free to do what you wanted to. And so we saw voting ages drop to 18, and with that also came the minimum drinking age. And in fact, in 1975, that was essentially the youngest point in our minimum drinking age history in the United States, where only 11 states out of 50 had a minimum drinking age for wine, beer, and liquor, essentially the laws we know today. In every other state, you were allowed to drink alcohol in some way, shape, or form before you were 21. And then came the National Minimum Age Drinking Act of 1984. This was imposed by Ronald Reagan. He passed a law which required states to still set their own minimum drinking laws. However, if they didn't have a minimum drinking age of 21, then they would forfeit 10% of their federal highway fund. So while this didn't require states to have a minimum drinking age of 21, it did persuade pretty much all of them, and by 1986, all states in the US had a minimum drinking age of 21. And that's where we've been ever since, with the slight exceptions to 3 states, Wisconsin, Maryland, and Kansas. You can actually drink when you're younger than 21 if you have a parent, teacher, or guardian. The United States is actually only one of 12 countries around the world with a minimum drinking age of 21, and 115 countries have a minimum drinking age of 18. So is this working for us? Why is it still at 21? Why are all these other countries at 18? Are all these other countries just shit-faced all the time or having more problems? And also, what are some of the problems that a high minimum drinking age causes in a country like the United States? So we're going to be talking about that a little bit today as well. So in the United States, drinking is really kind of frowned upon, I would almost say. So there are many groups in the United States also that are federally funded, a lot of them, that are more supportive of don't drink underage, especially don't drinking and drive. There's a lot of help groups as well that are trying to combat people that drink alcohol. However, there's also a lot of people that drink underage. There's a high minor underage drinking culture in the United States, especially in universities, and this leads to a lot of binge drinking, which is also extremely dangerous. So by putting so much effort into preventing people from drinking and driving, are we actually maybe causing some other problems in some other areas that are also causing people to die? There's a lot of laws on the books about underage drinking, and pretty much everywhere those rules are enforced. I mean, I've actually gotten caught for drinking underage. I had to go to court and pay a ticket, and I had one beer in my hand, and that was it. So the minimum legal drinking age is heavily enforced. However, it is extremely difficult to actually enforce it. So what you're doing is, by not allowing minors into a bar, they're going to get their alcohol anyway from somebody else, and they're just going to drink it in the room and comfort of their own privacy, essentially. I actually found an interesting quote from Mark Breckner. He was a former police chief in Boulder, Colorado, and he said of about 1,000 underage drinking violations, about 2 are actually prosecuted and charged with anything. So although underage drinking is enforced, it is extremely hard to control and to police that. And while Mr. Breckner was police chief, he actually said that they've tried different things, from really cracking down and raiding parties and writing everybody tickets, being a real hard ass about everything, and that actually just pushed it underground even more. They actually wouldn't be solving the problem of actually drinking. And what's more, at a party, although there might be minors there, there's also people of legal age, and that doesn't mean that they're handling their alcohol safely as well. So what are some things that we could actually do to change this, to prevent, especially in the United States, where when you're 21, you're at college, you're not at home anymore, you're with your buddies who aren't really making good decisions. How do we prevent these kids, or these adults, depending on what side of the argument you're on, from participating in binge drinking, to which can lead to over-intoxication, can lead to alcohol poisoning? So let me just spit out some facts real quick right here. About 88,000 people per year die in the United States because of an alcohol-related death, and about 31% of those are actually traffic accidents which lead to death. Only about 33,000 people die from firearms every single year, so about 2.5 times more people die from alcohol in the United States per year than they do from firearms. Back in the 1980s, when the minimum drinking age was raised to 21, automotive fatalities decreased by 13%. However, since the increase in the minimum drinking age, there has actually been a lot more alcohol-related deaths off the road because of that, especially in the 18 to 20-year-old demographic. And about 3,000 Americans aged 18 to 21 die every single year due to alcohol-related deaths. So although we've increased the minimum drinking age back in the 1980s from 18 to 21, we haven't really seen a reduction in overall deaths related to alcohol. We have seen a reduction in traffic fatalities. However, there have been an increase of off-highway deaths since the 1980s, and that number is actually continuing to grow. And last fact, 11% of 12 to 20-year-olds drink, and 90% of those instances are binge drinking. And although I haven't actually been able to find between 18 and 20, I can just tell you from personal experience, that number is a lot higher. Everybody that I knew that went to school drank underage. There was literally nobody that I knew at college that did not drink underage. So why should we lower the minimum drinking age? My main reason, if you start drinking when you're 21, you have no idea what to expect. There's not any experience to go on, and if something bad happens, all you have is your friends, who are also probably intoxicated. If you're 18, there's still a chance that you're at home. I turned 18 when I was still living with my parents, graduated from high school. And there can be a little bit more oversight if the 18-year-old or the 18th birthday party is at home with parents, at least within a phone call away, as opposed to at college with just your buddies. I'm going to argue actually a step further and lower the minimum drinking age to 16. Why? Because then everybody is still at home. If you lower the minimum drinking age to 16, like it is here in Germany, as well as in 21 other countries throughout the world, you are definitely still at home with your parents. And not every parent is a good parent, not every parent is perfect, but there's still a higher chance of parental intervening if you're 16 than if you're 21. Even if you do get plastered in your parents' basement, at least the parents are still there to make sure you don't die. That happens time and time again on college campuses. People get too drunk, they pass out, they think they're just sleeping, but there's actually something very wrong with them. So if we lower the minimum drinking age, we are introducing it to kids earlier, which then allows them to gather more experience before they actually go out on their own. Essentially, I mean, look at it with driving. With driving, you're also 16. You're at home, you drive a couple months with your parents, you get your license, there's a course that you have to go through, and you actually learn how to handle a vehicle before you're just let free on the highway. But with alcohol, we don't do that. We say, okay, you're 21, you go from not being able to drink anything to getting completely shit-faced overnight, and good luck trying to figure out how that's gonna work out. Ah, crap, I'm out of beer. The Seef beer, I think it's pretty good. I'm gonna go grab another one. I already got one prepared. I was kind of afraid of this. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna go grab it. The Innis and Gunn original. This thing is from Scotland, from Edinburgh. I've had this before. I haven't done a review on it or anything like that, but this is actually really good beer. And the craft beer store here in Aachen had it. Picked up a case. Not a case. Picked up a bottle. This is a bottle, Mike. Okay, anyway. Cherry orange. So I would describe that. This thing is oak aged in a barrel. It is a smooth Scottish beer with hints of toffee, vanilla, and oak. Let's get the Seef out of the way. Innis and Gunn, you're on deck. That thing's good. Definitely tasting some oakiness. That barrel, kind of that nice woody and sweet kind of a flavor. There's a little bit sweet beer. Yeah, it tastes a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of toffee. I think the bottle's actually right on this thing. All right, so let's continue. I got this CDC fact sheet for underage drinking up here. So excessive drinking is responsible for more than 4,300 deaths among underage youths each year and cost the United States $24 billion in economic costs in 2010. That's another thing. We've talked about the cost of life because of underage drinking, but also irresponsible drinking costs our economy a lot of money. A lot of money. In 2010, there was approximately 189,000 emergency room visits by persons underage for 21 for injuries and other conditions linked to alcohol. So I think I made it clear that alcohol is still a problem in the United States with a minimum drinking age of 21. So what are some solutions that we can solve these problems? Is actually lowering the drinking age the only thing that we can do? Well, the first thing that we can do is repeal the National Minimum Drinking Age Act of 1984. What this will allow states to do is to actually decide on a drinking age what works for them, and if that is at 21, then states will just leave it at 21. However, if states find out the best age to have it at is 18 or 19 or 20, then they can do that without having to forfeit funds for their highways. Also, if 21 is actually causing a problem, which there's evidence to support that, you're essentially forcing states to make laws which are hurting people out of fear that they aren't going to get funding for their highways. We can't just lower the minimum drinking age, though. We have to actually educate our people on what happens when you drink underage, what happens when you drink alcohol, period. A lot of kids, they go off to college, they start drinking once they're in college, and they have no idea what's going to happen. Let's move the drinking age down to not even 60. Let's keep it at 21 even, with an asterisk. We could do something like John McArdle proposed, and John McArdle, one of his suggestions was leave it at 21. Yeah, leave the drinking age of 21. However, let's do what we do with driver's license. Let's have a course that kids can take. Let's have a test that kids can take. Let's have parents sign off on these things and give 18-year-olds essentially a license to purchase and consume alcohol. What that'll do is that we're actually educating our kids in a formal setting. They're having to take a test, which will prove that they know what happens when you drink, what happens when you drink and drive, what are some of the effects of alcohol in the body, stuff like that. They'll actually be educated in these things before they're allowed to drink in the first place. You see what's happening here. So we could have essentially 18-year-olds that are drinking more responsibly than 21-year-olds. Just because you're 21, anyone can attest to this, just because you're 21 doesn't mean that you're responsible. And 18-year-olds are usually less responsible unless they actually are formally educated in something, whereas 21-year-old wouldn't be. Regardless of what we do, however, we need a more buffer zone. You know what I mean? We can't just say, okay, you're not allowed to drink, you're not allowed to drink, okay, now you're allowed to drink, without any kind of a mesh into that. Alcohol is an extremely dangerous drug that kills thousands of people per year. Alcohol kills more people than marijuana, heroin, and cocaine combined every single year. And we're just allowing 21-year-olds to take it with not knowing any of the consequences. Alcohol deserves our respect, just like everything in life. It's a great thing if you have it in moderation. But because having a minimum drinking age of 21, we're causing kids to binge drink, which is not only costing us billions of dollars per year, but tens of thousands of lives per year. And that's at least a conversation worth having. And it's just, I think it's something that's not even really been talking about. I hope this was interesting. Maybe that it wasn't a typical review. I enjoyed it because I got to drink 2 very good beers. The Seef beer, that was really nice. That was a really nice beer. I could understand why people like it. Innis and Gunn, dude, that takes no silver to nobody. I also got another Innis and Gunn on the way to do another review. And next time, I swear to God, next time we're doing special Michigan, awesome, freaky, hyped up beer. I'm excited to do it as well. So give this a thumbs up if you liked it, share it. I'd really appreciate if you guys would share this video. I think it's important what harm alcohol can do to people. And if there's any way that I can get my message out and try and help people to actually maybe think about this and have a discussion, I would really appreciate this. So if you guys want to share this, like, comment, as always, follow me on Twitter, Untapped, blah, blah, blah. And I will see you guys next time on Beer Lane. Cheers.